In this video, we're going to get introduced to some properties of the window and screen objects. Okay, so first of all, let's have a look at a few examples. So let's say we would like to guess the height of our browser window. So we're going to set create a variable window height, and we're going to set it to window dot, and the property we need to use here is the inner height. Okay, so let's send an alert message. Using this variable and see what our window height is. So it's 631 pixels, which is the distance from there to there. Okay, so that's how we get the window height. There are other syntaxes that we need to use for other browsers. If we want our code to work for most browsers, we can add each of those syntaxes. So the first one, we can add it using vertical bars. So the other one is document element dot client height. Okay, and the other one is document body client height. Okay, so you can see that it's working. So basically, if we want to make sure that our code works for most browsers, we need to bear this in mind. Okay, all right, let's comment the alert message and move to something else. Now let's say we would like to access the width of the user screen. So the user's screen is so the width is going to be the whole width of the screen and not only the browser. Okay, so we're looking at the whole screen this time. So we're going to just create another variable. We're going to call it screen width. Okay, and the syntax is going to be window.screen. Okay, and we need the width, so it's going to be dot width. And if we send that to in an alert message, so window dot alert screen width, so you can see that's the screen I'm using at the moment has got a width of 1280 pixels. All right, okay, so if we want to get the width for the window, it's exactly the same thing. We just change the height by the width, and similar to that for the screen height, we just need to change the width to a height. Okay, so now let's have a look at another example. So now let's guess the available height of our screen. So the available height is different from the height, because if we had our taskbar here, basically the available height would be less than the actual height of the whole screen. Okay, so in our case, let's have a look, since we don't have any taskbar there. So let's see available. Let's create a variable available screen height, and we're going to set it to window.screen, and the property we need here is avail height. Okay, and let's send an alert message. Okay, and we can see that the height, in our case, the available height is 720 pixels. All right. Okay, now we're gonna use these concepts to build something now. So what we would like to build, we would like to have on our page, we want 4 divs, all of them with equal dimensions, and we want them to fit all on the page. So we want div 1 to be there, div 2 there, 3, and then 4. Okay, so you're gonna need the width of our window, and then also we need to use the height of the window to set the dimensions of those divs. Okay, so first of all, let's create those divs in the body element. So okay, so Let's give it an ID, first one. So first one is going to be div1. And let's add some text. So div1. Second one is going to be div2, 3, 4, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. We need to change the style of these divs to get some background color. Okay, so for div1, so we're using the ID here. So we want a background color. Okay. Let's use this color, for example. Okay. That's going to be div 2, 3, and 4. And let's just change this using another background color. So for example, this one. And for this one, let's go for another color. Let's use, for instance, something like this. And the last one, let's use an orange color. That's fine. Okay. Alright, so now we've got our 4 divs. So you can see that at the moment the height and the width, they are both auto. What we'd like to do now, we want these divs to sit side by side, and we want each of them to have a width which is more or less 1/4 of the width of our page, and also the height. So we want them to occupy the whole height of the window, more or less. Okay. So first, if we want them to be sitting side by side, we're going to make them all floating to the left. Okay. So one way of doing that is by giving them a class and make them all float to the left. So we're going to give them a class and say, for instance, equal box. Okay. Same thing. All of them, they're going to have the same class. And then we can style this class. So equal box. And we want the float property to be set to left for all of them. Okay. And now we can see that all of them now, they are sitting side by side thanks to the float property. Okay. Now we're going to start looking at the width of these divs, and we're going to need the width of the window to set the new width of each of these divs. Okay, so let's start with the first div. So all we need to do is to access the div using the getElementsById. Okay, and then we're going to go to the style, width of the div, and set the width to 1/4 of the width of the window. Okay, so let's do that. So we're gonna need the getElementsById method, and we are looking at div1. All right, and then style width, and we are setting the width to window dot inner width. Okay, divided by 4. And basically we're gonna take out about 10 pixels because we would like to add some margin later, and we shouldn't forget to add a string here, pixels. So let's see what we get if we refresh the page. Okay, so now we can see the width has changed, and it's more or less just less than 1/4 of the width of the window. All right, and we can do the same thing for the height. Okay, so rather than using width, we're just going to use height, and we are setting this to the inner height of the window, and let's keep it minus 10 pixels. Okay, let's see what we get there. Okay, we shouldn't divide by 4 actually, because we are setting that to more or less the same height as the height of the window. Alright, and now it's working. Let's just comment this alert message. Is this one? Okay. Okay, so now we can see that the first div has got the dimensions that we are after. Okay, so we wanna do the same thing for the other divs. So rather than doing writing some code for each of these divs, there is a better way, is by using a for loop. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna have a look at what we are repeating here. So if we repeat the same code, all we're gonna need to change is the parameter that we have there. So rather than div 1, we're gonna have div 2, 3, 4. Okay, for both lines. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna use a for loop. So the piece of code to run is gonna be this. Okay, and if we set a variable I here, so rather than div, we're gonna have div plus I. Okay, and the same thing, div plus I, and we are initiating I at 1 at the beginning, and then we want I to be less than 5, and I goes up by 1 every time. Okay, so let's try it now and see. Okay, so we get exactly what we wanted. So now we can see that all divs, they are sitting side by side, and their dimensions are exactly what we wanted. So now let's just add some more styling here. So let's add a margin left just to separate these divs. So let's go for 5 pixels.